Hey, what's up everyone? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we are looking at the Play Arts Kai DC variant Superman figure. Been waiting a long time for this guy. They delayed him a few times, and so it's been a long time coming that we finally get to look at this figure. And my first impression is that it's really good. It's a really cool looking Superman. People keep complaining that he shouldn't be wearing armor, but why not? The only reason he has superpowers is the Earth's sun, so it's not unreasonable for Superman to have a suit of armor. You know, you could fill in any sort of storyline that you wanted to, or even just say that it looks cool. Who cares if it's Superman and he's wearing armor, you know? So I don't have any complaints about him having an armored suit, so we're just going to get that out of the way right now. So he stands, pretty tall figure, he stands about 10¼ inches tall. Just for quick size comparison, here is Supergirl right next to him, just a little bit shorter, just the tiniest bit shorter. So the scaling, you know, it's not the best thing for Play Arts figures, but it's not horrible. It's not enough to where I would really complain about it. So this guy, he's got mostly metallic blue and then metallic red with some gold accents throughout and a few little, you know, other accent colors just to tie it all together. I really like the design of this figure in terms of the armored look. I think they did a really good job keeping it organic looking. It's not too bulky. It looks actually pretty sleek, but still gives the impression of a whole lot of strength behind it. So I do really like that a lot. The big chest, and then, you know, the bulky shoulders. It just gives it a really nice look. I really like it. It might be my favorite looking variant so far, not counting Wonder Woman because she had all that awesome nakedness, so that's always a bonus. Before we get into the figure anymore, let's look at the accessories. We have the two fist hands that are on him right now, then we have these two open hands, and we can use these, there goes one of them, we can use these to show you the detail, the different colors throughout, all of these little armored bits that come out through the fingers and the tops of the hands. Really nicely done, they look great. So we have the two open hands there, we have an alternate head, the yelling heat vision eyes, or yelling face with heat vision eyes. The eyes are red with kind of like gold on top to make it look like they're getting ready to fire. The hair does have some shading in it. Same thing for this one. A lot of people are complaining about the face. I think that looks fine. It looks like a young Superman and definitely fits in with the more anime style of the DC variants. I'm perfectly happy with it. The only thing I might say is that a little bit more of a chin would have helped, but I don't mind it too much. It looks fine once you get it posed, I think, so I'm pretty happy with that. They all come with the Play Arts, the standard Play Arts display stands, so I'm not going to look at that. But these ones, the Superman and Supergirl, both have these little comic book cutout type things, which are kind of cool. It's all 3D, obviously, so it's a nice little piece. I don't personally think it's necessary at all, especially since they're the only ones that have them. And I don't really see how you're going to pose this or set this up with a pose that actually makes it look useful. I don't know. It's cool that the way they did it and that they included something like that, but to me it's unnecessary. I'd rather see more useful accessories like alternate hands or another head or something like that. I thought that would have been much better. This is just the same kind of display stand that we saw with Ryu and maybe Chun-Li, so it's got a ball peg up here and this can be moved around on it, but that's really it. So, I mean, it's kind of cool, but it's also fairly useless, I think, in practical terms. There's the other hand that I dropped, just so you can see two open hands. Alright, let's get into the figure. Ooh, wait, no, I forgot. I forgot one of the most important things. He also comes with a cloth cape. Some people really like cloth capes. If you guys follow my videos, you should know that on most figures, I think cloth capes don't work. This figure's kind of in the middle of that. Here's the problem with this cloth cape. They didn't do a great job of executing the design. It actually looks pretty good on him, I'll show you that later. But the way they made it, it's a square. It's almost a complete square. This is still bunched up a whole lot. You can see there's a lot of wire still zigzagging in there. I could stretch that out and flatten it out. It's almost a perfect square, which obviously is not the right shape for a cape. You want it big at the bottom, narrow at the top, so the only way to use this is to bunch this up a whole lot, which is the way it comes. I just pulled it out so you could see. So you bunch it up a whole bunch, bunch, and then you peg these in where the cape articulation normally would go. Then you have the cape. Unfortunately, this big bunch is really ugly and it doesn't work well, and I guess they did that to try to make it look wrinkled, you know, flowy, but it just doesn't work that well. I don't care for it. They did put wire in it, obviously, so that's pretty good. I mean, you can bend it however you want, but it definitely should have been more triangle shaped, narrower at the top, so that you don't have this huge bunching effect. That's just not how it would have been made if this was a real cape, and it's not how it should have been made for the figure. You know, a company like this that's making a cloth cape, they should think about that kind of thing before they do it. I mean, I made that Master Chief figure with the cloak, and I've never made any cloth goods at all for my figures, and I was able to figure that out, and using a giant old sewing machine make it work the way it should have. So I'm thinking they should have been able to do a little bit of a better job on the cape. So we'll get to that. I'll look at that later in a little bit more detail, but let's go ahead and look at the figure right now. I've already mentioned the paint looks good. There's shading throughout everything. There's kind of like a black wash going on with all the little armor pieces, so it really has some nice contrast. It pops pretty well. Looks good. The only complaint I really have as far as the design goes is the cape. Not the cloth cape, this cape. This top part, pretty much standard. It's a little stiff and it's kind of narrow, but that's okay. You know, they were going for a more narrow cape. But the two bottom pieces down here are also considerably narrow. You have to overlap them this much and keep the cape very narrow. If you put them out to the side at all, they just split. There's almost no overlap, so that really detracts from the cape. If you've seen the Batman figures, they always have some overlap, so you can spread them out or overlap them more to give you the desired look. This one, you have to keep them right like this, and it starts out very narrow at the top and then flares out really big at the bottom, so that just looks pretty weird. They do have these hinged pieces, kind of like on the Origins Batman. This side works okay. I mean, it kind of looks good, but it still gives you that really big flared look, and I don't care for that too much. And then this side, it doesn't work that well at all. When you spin it out, it separates here and at the bottom. It just doesn't look right, so you have to kind of leave it curled in like this, or even more, and then that just looks weird too. So the cape is kind of odd. I mean, I guess they maybe were going for that flared look, but I think it doesn't really help the figure too much. I don't care for that. It is painted in this nice metallic red and shaded, so that's alright. But it looks awkward, and it's very hard to pose it and make it look right since there's such a big gap between the two pieces. They don't overlap that well. It just kind of looks like you're just spinning the whole cape to the side. And I don't know, it's kind of weird. I guess it's kind of hard to explain on camera, but you'll see if you buy the figure. The cape is a little awkward for most posing, and if you really want to overlap it, you can, but then it's even narrower, and it just looks kind of strange. Not so much so that I wouldn't buy the figure because of it, but it is just an odd design choice. Okay, so articulation-wise, the head is on a double ball peg, which is standard. You do get a little bit of a gap in some poses, but it's not enough to even worry about at all. You can definitely pose the head all you want, up and down. The neck is on a ball peg, probably a double ball peg as well. I haven't pulled it off, but that's pretty much standard for most of these figures. The shoulders are ball hinges that are on top of this kind of swiveling butterfly joint. It's not the standard butterfly joint that pulls out. It just kind of rotates around in that socket. It's kind of hard to show you, but it is there and it does work. And then this part of the shoulder is just a soft piece that is connected to the bicep, so that spins around the ball hinge and covers it up. It does get in the way a little bit, but you can pretty much get the articulation where you need it, and it does help the seamlessness of the figure, so that shoulder piece is pretty good. The butterfly, it's not as good as the traditional butterfly, but it does give you a little bit more posing options, so it's alright. Obviously the bicep swivel is there. Standard PlayArts Kai elbow, so it's a ball hinge. It swivels in the bicep. The forearm ratcheted here. You get a little bit better than 90 degrees, so that's pretty good. Wrist is the same type of joint swivel on both ends and hinged in the middle. No problems really posing this guy. I guess the wrist does get in the way, or the hand armor gets in the way a little bit, but not enough to worry about. The upper torso articulation It is a double ball peg, but there's almost no range of motion due to the way they sculpted the armor. You get a little bit of a swivel, a little bit of a lean here and there, but that's really about it. You're going to get most of your articulation down here in the waist. It's fairly limited as well though. It's a single ball peg going up into the torso, so you can lean him forward and back and a little bit side to side, and you do get your rotation there, but again, it's fairly limited. He has this floating crotch piece. It's a very slim one, but it actually suits the figure very well. It hides the articulation perfectly, and it keeps the figure keeps it from having too wide of hips, and I think it's one of the better looking setups we've seen so far. So the hips are ratcheted. They're ratcheted ball hinges. As you can see though, the way they designed it, the torso comes down really far. So again, we're really limited in the articulation. You are going to have some finagling to do if you want to bring the hips out, but they do ratchet to the side and forward, and then they swivel around on that articulation there. It's gonna take some work to get it posed for the hips though. Definitely not the best design in terms of range of motion. It does look really good though, so I guess it's a trade-off. See, it does look nice. Okay, so the knees, they're not the better knee joints that we've seen recently, but they're not nearly as bad. So this is like kind of an in-between phase for the knees. They look pretty decent. A little bit clunky still, but not nearly as bad as we've seen in the past, so that's pretty good for me. And then the ankles, we have the standard ball hinge for the ankle, so a swivel here, and then a ratchet. And then the toe is actually hinged inside that armor. It doesn't really allow for the toe to go up at all, just down. So that's kind of strange. This is really soft, and this is semi-soft, so you shouldn't have too much trouble getting the foot up like that. But the toe hinge itself really only works for going down, kind of like some of the Gundams we've seen. So that's a little strange to me. I wish it could go up and actually get the toe bent the way it should be, but it's not so much of a problem that I'm going to really harp on it too much. I think it's something you can probably get around and overlook as you're posing the figure. It's definitely a good looking figure. If you're a Superman fan, I don't see how you could want to pass up on a thing like this. It just looks really good. Let's bring the camera down so you can see it a little bit better. I do recommend it 100%, despite its few flaws. Like I said, it's still a really, really nice looking figure. So now I'd like to just throw the cloth cape on there and show you guys what that looks like, and then we'll call it a wrap. And I can do that really quickly. It's not too complicated. These just pop right out. They're a little easier to get out than the standard hinges because it's made to do that. And then we can just put this one in. So these just peg in. And as you can see, the bunch really starts to become a problem here. It's really clustered up here. This doesn't look good from the back at all. The bunching is just not well, it's not well designed because it's there in the first place, but it doesn't hide well at all. It does look okay from the front. Because there's so little of the plastic cape up here, it's kind of seamless to flow into the cloth cape. So once you do put the cloth cape on and you want to get it posed, it's not going to be too hard to make it look all right. But the cape is still just a little bit clunky, and it's going to take some work to get it to look good, I think. I have a feeling most people are going to opt for the cloth cape on this as long as you don't look at it from the side or the back, because that looks horrible. But from the front, I think once you get him on a display stand or something and put him in a flying pose, I think most people are going to prefer the cloth cape because it does give you a really nice windswept look. So I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out in that regard, but it definitely could have been a lot better. It does look good though, I think, for the most part. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more figure reviews, custom figures, and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.